All right. Well, good afternoon or good morning, depending on where you're joining us from. Welcome to Survivor Space and today's very special Survivor Circle. I'm Becky Perkins, Survivor Support Specialist with Zero Abuse Project, and I am just thrilled to welcome back my wonderful, beautiful friend, Kiesa Kay, who's going to talk about a topic that I'm sure if you're tuning in, you love as much as she and I do, talking about the dogs, but not just the dogs, but service animals and PTSD and the very like real service that trained dogs provide. So I'm very excited for this discussion. A couple of the housekeeping notes that I always make, and if you've joined us before, you could probably recite these by heart by now, like I do. But this is being recorded, so if you need to leave today for any reason, the recording will be available later today on the Survivor Circle's webpage on Survivor Space and also on Zero Abuse Project's YouTube channel. If you're attending today, your camera and your audio are disabled, and that's just for your privacy. So we can't see you or hear you, but you are welcome to participate by typing a question or a comment into the chat at the bottom of your screen. When you do that, you have the option of selecting your audience as either everyone, which means the two of us and everyone attending, or you can select just the two of us to receive your question or comment. So we encourage you to use that at any point today. We like this to be as interactive as we can. And we just want to give a quick shout out to our funders, the Office for Victims of Crime, who provide grant funding for all of Survivor Space, including our Survivor Circles. So without further ado, I am going to turn it over to my good friend Kiesa to get us started today. Welcome.
Well, thank you, Becky. It's always a pleasure to see you, and thank you for introducing me with such grace and such kindness. And today we do transforming trauma through creative self-expression, and today's topic is the dogs we love, and the horses, and the bunnies, and all of our pals with paws, the pals with hooves, everybody we love, because they make such a huge difference. So I want to invite you to go ahead and share in the chat your pals. If you've had a pal with paws, a special horse, a special goat, anything, please put a little note, maybe just the name, maybe a little story in the chat so that we can get to know your pals with paws too. There's nothing like them. There's nothing else in the world like them. And I want to start off with a video of some of the Paws with Paws that people have shared with me specifically for this purpose. And the music is in this life. It's by my very good friend, Brad Hodge, and he wrote it for my play Sky Eyes. And I think it kind of fits because it's about love. So I think I'd like to go ahead and run the video first, and then I'll start talking. Becky, if you want to go ahead and run the video, that would be great. And during this talk, we'll talk about service animals, emotional support animals, therapy animals, and of course, our beloved pets.
In this life you gave to me, I have found my way. All I have is all I need to fly. You see me through the eyes of age, full of hopes and dreams. In the end, we'll always have what we give away in love. Sometimes I hear the angels sigh. In this life I remember another place and time. It changed us all, it changed the world we knew. A long forgotten innocence has finally led me here, that in the end we'll always have what we give away in love. Sometimes I hear the angels sigh, and as I watch the years go by and the winding road unwind, and live out the life I've come to know so well, I can hear the distant thunder, I just can't unring that bell. But I grabbed all I could carry and outran the hounds of hell. In this life, and as I watch the years go by and the winding road unwind, and live out the life I've come to know so well, I can hear the distant thunder, I just can't unring that bell. But I grabbed all I could carry and outran the hounds of hell. In this life I'm living now, I find strength in you. I never knew how far my heart could go. So many years, so many miles, and still I believe that in the end we'll always have what we give away in love. Sometimes I hear the angels sigh in this life, in this life.
Thank you so much for that. Thank you for doing that technological thing, Becky. I wanted to share this pup with you too. This is Jojo, also known as Bear Dog. And this is the mascot of the Center for Pioneer Life. And I just wanted to share Jojo with you because I wanted him on the video and got the photo too late. And that dog brings such joy when the children come, the youngins come and they're visiting. I mean, tell you, everybody relaxes around Jojo. But Jojo's a pet, not a service dog or any of that. Pet, just a really beloved person of sorts. So thank you so much for listening to that song and watching that video for me. I could watch it 100,000 times. And my service dog is named Rosa. And this is named Pals with Paws because of my friend Robin Carrington. She wrote a book called Princess Galani. And in the book, there's a princess who has adventures. And everywhere she goes, she has her faithful horse, Pal, by her side. So I took that name Pal from there because it means so much to me. And I get a little emotional when I start talking about my service dog. I did not think I needed a service dog. I have PTSD. I have the most severe PTSD when I was in my 20s. Oh, and my 30s were pretty rough too. Got a lot better. Thank God for good therapy, trauma-focused cognitive behavioral therapy. But there were still times when I had terrible, terrible screaming nightmares. And when I had flashbacks. And those of you who are familiar with PTSD, you know it can be really scary when you have a flashback. I'll give you an example because some of you might not know what that is. At the time I was married and I was cleaning the turkey and doing all that stuff, and I'd set it down. And my husband took the turkey neck. He was going to throw it away, but he was behind me and he had the turkey neck in his hand. I turned and saw it and I began screaming. And I had had enough therapy to know that I was having a flashback, that this was starting. And I screamed, "Get the kids away, get the kids downstairs." And I jumped into a closet because I knew, I mean, that was how intense it was. I knew that I was not going to be able to control the feelings. And I wasn't going to be able to control my response to those feelings. I could feel, but I had had enough therapy. I could feel it coming. I couldn't do anything about it. And so because I'd been tormented in my life with the turkey neck in a terrible situation, just him coming up behind me with that and me turning and see it, it was just that quick. And the other thing that'll cause them will sometimes be smells. I cannot be around the smell of skull tobacco. That menthol, wintergreen, no, no, no. So there's some things that just trigger flashbacks. I want you to know something. My service dog, Rosa, I've had her for 16 years. She's 16 and a half years old. She'll be 17 on July 28th. And in that entire time, when she has been with me, I have not had a single flashback when she has been with me. It is a miracle. Even on my worst days, and I have some pretty, we all have some pretty bad ones. Even on my worst days, she's with me. She can stop flashback. She comes and puts her paw, it's not that little, she puts her paw in a very specific sort of spot on my knee. And she kind of rubs a little bit her head, and it grounds me and it centers me. And I realize the space and time that I'm in. And I don't, and I know I can feel that start and stops. Do you have any idea what a miracle that is? To live in a body and a life where you can be taken back to hell by the scent of tobacco with menthol. You can be taken back to hell by turkey neck in the hand of somebody you really love. And to have that never happen, as long as your dog is there, it has completely and totally changed my life. And the other thing is amazing to me is nightmares. I have not had a nightmare go completely through in 16 years. She wakes me up. She wakes me up. I have great sleep. And if a nightmare starts, somehow, does she know? No idea how she knows, but she barks. And she comes and stares at me, bark, bark. And it's very kind of like, I don't know, it's a different kind of bark from anything that she regularly would do, like if she was playing or something. And it wakes me up. Now, some service dogs will pull the covers off of somebody, and they have different things that they'll do to stop the nightmares. It's changed my life. It saved my life. It saved me from a kind of despair that I'd gotten used to living with. I just figured, before I had Rosa, I just figured I'd always have nightmares. I'd always had flashbacks. Occasionally, they got rare. They got really rare. I just have to deal. I just have to deal. And now I don't have to deal. I love her so much. And not just for the work she performs, those are tasks she performs, but for who she is and how she is. She's amazing. The other thing she can do is if I'm in a group, if it's okay with the group, she'll walk the parameters and she'll actually kind of greet the people. And she kind of does this to give me a sense of safety in the space, And she will be between me and people. And sometimes that 1 foot of distance, that little bit of distance is all I need to be able to be in a space with even in a big crowd. If I have that much personal space, and if I'm doing something like I'm in a bookstore and I'm looking at books, she'll stand behind me. She'll sit behind me and sit down. And that way, it's got my back. My service dog literally has got my back. So I have a little challenge for you. We're going to keep talking about all of this. I'm going to keep talking. But I want you, if you have a piece of paper, if you have some crayons or some pens or pencils or anything, while I'm talking, if you want to, go ahead and jot down words you think, or start drawing, scribbling, doodling. If you're having any feelings about this yourself, go ahead and use your art. Go ahead and use your own skills as a way of holding on to your thoughts about your own special paths with Paws. Now, people are allowed to ask 2 questions if you have a service dog. When you bring the service dog in. The first is that a service dog? And the other is, what's the dog do for you? And believe me, I don't go into all of this detail with people. Yeah, I'm going into the restaurant with my service dog. What's the dog do for you? It's a miracle. Oh, no. Although sometimes I want to. I just say she stops nightmares and flashbacks. That's it. Dogs can be trained to stop seizures. Not stop seizures. No, I said that wrong. Ways to detect that seizures are coming so that the person can get in a safe place. And they can be able to push a lever to dial 911. There are service dogs for people who can't hear, who will let their person know if a fire alarm's going off. That service dogs can be trained for a lot of different things. I have an invisible disability. It's very visible to me, very visible to the people who love me, but it's invisible in the sense of you can't see anything like that. The tail is my service dog, there's something going on. People who have invisible disabilities aren't required to have service jackets, right? Service on them and all that. You're not required to have that. And you're also not required to have any paperwork. So there are a lot of places online that will say, register your service dog, pay us all this money. You're basically just throwing away your money. I did get registered with one place before I took a trip because I wanted to be able to explain to people who were never going to get it. Because the big problem with the service dogs is not the dog's behavior. If it's a trained service dog, it'll be very well behaved. It's people who don't get it. Now, my service dog, my Rosa, has really protected me. I was hiking one day by the Mississippi River, and I was just going along, happy as can be, and a man came sort of out of this wooded area, and he literally lurched at me, and he smelled a little bit like maybe he'd been a drinking, and my dog leaped up, my sweet, gentle, darling, never hurt anybody dog, leaped up and began barking at him and chasing him, and he ran. Now, we had had many hikes before. We hiked together all the time. I had never had her chase somebody off from me that way. And we also do tent camping. We tent camp quite a bit. And I love it. I just love it, especially in good weather, right? Not in the rain. Sometimes, even then. But I was tent camping, and a man was coming by the tent. And that happens sometimes. It's not, I mean, if you're in a place that's got more people, but this particular time, the tent flap was a little open and Rosa went out running. She made like a dart. She starts chasing that man. Rah, 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 rah. He's like, Rosa's lost her mind. And the man's going, I'm going to shoot your dog. I'm going to shoot your dog. But he was running in the opposite direction. And once he was afar off, she just came back and lay down beside me and she was fine. And I never knew what's different about that man who lurched at me. What's different about the one that was just walking by the tent. Why did she chase those guys off? Why did she pick them? I don't know. And she many, many times has been in the grocery store with me or other places like that. So I space out in grocery stores from time to time. And I just love her. And I love having her with me. One time, and all the times we've been in line, one time she got between me and the person behind and started barking for him to back off. Why? I don't know. And one of the things I love is I love swimming with her. Oh, we were just playing and swimming in the river. And a lady who had seen me in a poetry group said, wow, I've never seen a dog like that. And I'm like, she's off duty. We're playing, she's so happy. But when I would swim across this one lake, I used to live by a little lake up in Tryon, and I'd swim along on Melrose Mountain. She would swim around me. So I'd be swimming, and she'd be swimming in these circles around me. It was just bizarre. What got to me on that was nobody taught her to do that. Nobody taught her to swim in circles, but that's what she did. So that protectiveness is really, really strong. Now, the other thing is, I don't know how many of you have had sort of depression. Sometimes PTSD has with it this deep sorrow, this deep abiding sorrow, because you can't go back and fix anything, or you'll just be sad in a different, like a deep, deep way. And it's like depression, but each person's different and each way is different. Well, if I've got to get out of bed to feed and walk my dog, I'll be getting out of bed. And if I'm not out of bed to feed and walk my dog, guess who's standing right beside me, looking at me? It is time to get up. It's amazing. But as I said, people are more likely to be the problem. They don't get it. They don't know why you have a service dog. They can't see anything. I was told once that I couldn't go into a poetry group because of the dog. I couldn't go to a music jam because they didn't like dogs. I mean, even places that were safe. But probably the most offensive was I was a wonderful food co-op place, and the doctor came up and told me to get out of there with my dog. I said, "Oh no, ma'am, this is a service dog." And she said, "I could trip on that dog. Get that dog out." And I was like, got my dog out, and she just kept going. And I thought, what in the world? Shouldn't she know that a service dog is allowed with me wherever I go? I have a disability. I have a disability. This is different as something that substantially limits one or more your major life activities. I have PTSD. Now I'm fabulous. Don't get me wrong. I'm a great writer. I'm a good friend. But I'm also have PTSD. It's like saying, oh, I don't know, any other disability that you would have. You live with it. And I was so hurt that someone who should have known better could be that way. I was so hurt in the portrait group that they could be that way. These were people that were my friends. They were supposed to get it. Later, sometimes someone might be triggered by the presence of a dog. Maybe they had something happen to them. Maybe they really are afraid that trip on the dog or that the dog will be mean or whatever. Maybe they've had experience with fake service dogs. And if you're wondering what I mean, there are some dogs that are service dogs, and maybe they're just doing their business. Then there's some other people, they have maybe an emotional support dog or whatever. They might not know the the rules around where they can take their animals. And then there are these other people who pretend that they have service dogs and when they don't have any disability, in order to exploit the system and in order to be able to go places, with their animals. And that's a huge disservice because a service dog is very specifically trained to do something for a person who desperately needs that done in order to go into situations. And my dog, having my dog has trained me so well that now that she's getting older, I'm able to do a lot of things that I wasn't able to do before. I'm able to go into crowds. I'm able to do a lot of things. It's almost like having that time of love and safety has trained me. My service dog has trained me. It's beautiful. Now, I said we talk about this. A therapy dog is different. A therapy dog will go into a space with its handler, and usually it'll help other people. Maybe they'll go into a senior center or children's advocacy center. And my dog Rosa actually has been trained as a therapy dog, which was fun. I made sure she passed those tests. It was important to me. And when my very, very dear friend Brian was having his heart surgery, and I was in the hospital, with my service dog, and it was all right before his procedure. It was a great comfort to him to have Rosa. It was a great comfort. And I was in that elevator going back down after visiting, getting a little bit of a breather. And it had been such a sweet time. Brian was wonderful. He was playing his mandolin right before going into the night before surgery. His friend had come up to play his guitar in the harp. But anyway, I was with my dog and I was in the elevator and I was gonna just go away. And a woman got into the elevator and said, "What? You've got a dog." And I thought, oh no, here we go again. She's going to tell me why I can't have a dog, why I can't be in the hospital, why I can't be in the elevator. I'm like, it's a service dog, ma'am. And she said, it's wonderful. Can I pet her? Now, you usually can't pet service dogs, especially if they're in their jackets. But with a dog for PTSD, sometimes that's socialization and the situation's okay. So yeah, this time you can pet her. And she said, could you please take this dog up to see my son? Now remember, this is a therapy dog. A therapy dog could do this with other people. And I said, what? She said, my son has cancer and today's his birthday. And the only thing he asked for was to play with the dog. She said, I didn't know what I was going to do. They don't let dogs in here. I didn't know what I was going to do. And so I made sure it was all right with the nurse's station and everything, that it was all right. And Rosa went on in there. We went up and visited her son. And here's the thing. Rosa is not allowed on furniture. She does not get on beds. She does not get on couches or chairs. She's never allowed on furniture. That's just my rule. Now, she does have her own personal double bed futon. She looked at that boy in the hospital bed, and he went, he patted the bed, and she leaped up. She leaped up to that little boy. Well, he wasn't that little, that young boy, almost a young man, but she leaped up with him, and he was so excited. And he just petted her and held her and played with her. And that mom was over the moon, over the moon. All I want to know was, how did Rosa know it was okay to break the rule about don't get in bed? Anybody else that invited her, she'd had none of them, right? I swear, our dogs are so much smarter than we are. They're so much smarter. So that's sort of an example. And then there's emotional support animals. Now, a lot of times people will think, they're the same thing. No, not the same thing. Emotional support animals aren't protected by very many laws. Therapy dogs have to be invited into a space, allowed into a space, and emotional support animals have to be allowed into a space, whereas a service dog can go with you wherever you go. Now, I think the laws do vary from state to state, and I think there is a law about housing, that if you have housing and you have an emotional support animal, you can have that animal in your housing. And this is where I want to mention laps and naps. Now, you don't know it, but in that video that we saw, I'm not going to get emotional. Oh, yes, I am. There was a cat named Baby, and Baby belonged to my very dear friend, Dorothy. And when Dorothy passed, Baby was an older cat. And Baby had known nothing but love from Dorothy for years upon years upon years. She adored that cat. And yet, where do you put a senior cat? You know, and this cat had never been to any kind of Humane Society situation. Dorothy had had her. And she was, quite frankly, when we pass, our animals are traumatized too. They're sad. They miss us. They have feelings. So here it was a situation. I didn't know what to do. I called up Laps and Naps. And there's this woman named Nancy who finds homes for older cats when anything's happened to their owners and their guardians, however you put it, and they can no longer care for them. Now, ultimately, we found somebody else to take Baby, and it was a blessing. But they do that. They place senior dogs, and or senior cats. There's also a place that places the senior dogs, and that's a real gift. It's a real gift, and they're actually doing a big fundraiser now, trying to get a senior cat sanctuary out in Marion, North Carolina, which I think is really cool. But there's a question. When you have a dog as much as I love my Rosa, as much as you love your cat, your horse, your pet, how do you make sure that there's a plan for them for after you're gone? And the thing I'm looking at now is, how do you make sure you're ready if they're going to be gone? It's really hard. My dog is 16 and a half. She's outlived her breed by 5.5 years, at least 5 years. And someday she's not going to be with me anymore. She's got advanced kidney disease, and she's not with me now because she wears out. She wears out. So I let her. We have a long walk, and she'll go with me sometimes if there's a place that's going to be real safe for her. But she took care of me for 16 years. And now I take care of her. And she wants to do her job so much. I went through a span of COVID. I had COVID for 3 weeks, and it was awful. And during that time, she wouldn't go sleep in her nice, cozy bed. She wouldn't. She was right there beside me where I was, staring at me for 3 weeks. And I mean, she was, I don't know how to explain it. She was right there. And I knew I was getting better. I knew I was going to make it. I knew I was going to live through this, quite frankly. The day that she went to bed in her own little bed and slept good through the night and wasn't being vigilant to me. It's a miracle. It's just a miracle. I wanted to take a few minutes and see if anybody had any questions. If we were in person now, you know, there'd probably be a lot of questions, a lot of things to talk about. But since we're online, if you do have anything you want to share in the chat, just go right ahead. Becky, I'll just reach out to you. Is there anything in the chat that you think we need to pay attention to?
Yeah, we've had a couple comments just from the beginning, someone sharing their Australian Shepherd named Oreo, who's very protective. Gratitude for the video that you shared and that the song is beautiful. And your story about Rosa visiting the young man with cancer, just an incredibly beautiful story. As someone who has walked alongside kids and families with a cancer diagnosis, I know that means so much. I've seen it time and time again. Thank you for sharing about your Rosa.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. That's wonderful. I wanted to let you know, service dogs can be very, very, very expensive. I was blessed by someone I dearly love who trained my service dog specifically for me. Rosa was chosen from a litter of 11 puppies as the only one in that litter of 11 puppies who could put up with me. No, I'm being a little harsh to myself, but she had to have certain characteristics, being very gentle, being very smart, wanting to please people. Yeah, she's a lab mix. But she was chosen for me from a very young age as a puppy, and she was trained specifically for me from a very young age. And she has some special things that she can do, like that are just good training. Like if the food is right there, she won't eat it unless I tell her to. There's a special word, munchies, which is just like manger, and I really like rich. So, that tells her to eat. And now that she's older, that's not something I'll gesture. I'll say, go eat. But when she was younger, it was very important because I wanted to make sure that she understood what the parameters were, what the boundaries were. She was also taught to stay at a doorway. If a door's wide open, she won't go through it unless I tell her to. Now, once again, it's like this last year, that girl, she's got her own self. I mean, she's just a little different. She's a little more independent. She's paying a little less attention to the rules. And I think we've both gone completely lax because I just want to love on her. We take walks to the creek whenever we can. She loves to go to the creek. We go to the river, and she used to play and frolic and everything in the river. And now, yes, she'd be about 112 years old in people years. She just wants to stand there. It just makes her happy to stand in that water, that cold water on her little paws. It's amazing to me. But the point is, I do digress. The point is, there are grants. If you want a service dog, we have a lot of links that we were going to put in the chat or that we'll send to anybody who registered for this for all kinds of different resources. But it's very important to know that if you want a service dog, there are resources, and you don't have to not get one just because you don't have money. There's organizations that can help you. There's organizations like Patriot Paws for military veterans, Paws with a Cause, and Needs, which is a wonderful organization, long history in service dog industry. Now they do it might be different now, but what it used to be was the service dog was free, but the person had to raise $8,000 with the fundraising kits and resources. And $8,000 is a real good price for a service dog, to be frank. But there are resources. There's some people who've done GoFundMe's for them. So don't let if this is something that's gonna help you, don't let not having money stop you. And reach out to me. You've probably got my email already if you've listened to any of these, but healing art of writing at gmail.com. That's my email. And if you or anyone you know needs or wants a service dog, or if you want to have more information about the difference between therapy dog, emotional support dog, pet, service dog, let me know. And you can train your own service dog. There's an organization that's just amazing that will train you to train your dog for you. It's just really cool. So there are a lot of options. And I really, really hope that you've enjoyed this time together as much as I have. And I hope if you've got a special animal in your life after this, well, I'll tell you what I really, really, really want you to do. It's up to you. But have you ever thought about making a little song for your pet? Just to sing? What about writing about your pet? What about loving on your pet just because? Now, when a service dog isn't working, they're usually sleeping, you know. But whether it's a service dog, pet, or a therapy animal, an emotional support animal, these animals who are in our lives, I really think they are earth angels. Do you want to hear my song for my dog? I don't tell everybody, but I'll share it with you. Rosa, Rosa, Mariposa, have some dreams. Do suppose I love you where you go, Rosa, Rosa, Mariposa. So as you can see, when you create your song for your pet, or your service dog, or your therapy dog, or your emotional support animal, it doesn't have to be something you're going to hear on the radio. It's a private song. It's a secret song, only for you and the ones you love. I'm going to have us close out with watching the video again, because there's some people who started late. And I want you to kind of listen to the words, because the video was written for a play I wrote called Sky Eyes, which I wrote for my mother. It was wonderful in many ways. And it didn't go for this purpose originally, but it works really well, because there's this line that he says, in the end, we'll always have what we give away in love. Sometimes I think I hear the angels sighing. So if you don't mind, I'd like to hear that again. And as it's going, I'd like for you to do your own creative expression.
In this life you gave to me, I have found my way. All I have is all I need to fly. You see me through the eyes of age, full of hopes and dreams. In the end, we'll always have what we give away in love. Sometimes I hear the angels sigh. In this life, I'm remembering another place and time. It changed us all, it changed the world we knew. A long forgotten innocence has finally led me here, that in the end we'll always have what we give away in love. Sometimes I hear the angels sigh, and as I watch the years go by and the winding road unwind, and live out the life I've come to know so well, I can hear the distant thunder, I just can't unring that bell. But I grabbed all I could carry and outran the hounds of hell. In this life And as I watch the years go by and the winding road unwind and live out the life I've come to know so well, I can hear the distant thunder. I just can't unring that bell. But I grabbed all I could carry and outran the hounds of hell. In this life I'm living now, I find strength in you. I never knew how far my heart could go. So many years, so many miles, and still I believe that in the end we'll always have what we give away in love. Sometimes I hear the angels sigh in this life. In this life.
That's so lovely. I want to share with you one more photo before we go. This is me when I was a little girl. It's one of the first pictures ever taken of me, I think. My father took this picture. And that is one of the cats. We had cats all over, all around that house. I lived in a lake house, and there were cats everywhere. And if you read my memoir, you'll find out just exactly what they meant to me and how they saved me and how they helped me through that difficult time. So whether you're a cat person or a dog person or a horse person, whatever, I hope you've enjoyed taking a few minutes to think about a Paws with Paws. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kiesa. That was beautiful. Oh, that video. I get chills. I get tears in my eyes. It's just beautiful seeing everybody's fur babies, their companions. It's so sweet. Well, thank you all so much for joining us. And as I put in the chat, there are a lot of resources that Kiesa has that I will send you all an email so that you will have that available to you anytime that you need it. And I'll include her email address in that as well, so you'll be able to contact her if you would like to. So thank you so much for joining us and learning more about this important and wonderful topic. And I enjoy learning more about Rosa. I've heard about her a lot, so I enjoyed learning more about her. So thank you so much.